Welcome to the Revitalizing Life Health Talk. I want to bring some science to the idea of healing. That's one of my goals in this presentation. I am Jenny Hughes. My studio is called Jenny Hughes Healing, where I do healing facilitation. Oh, and I meant to stop the share real quick so that I'm like with you and not like a little tiny square up on the screen. And yeah, let's get started. So I'll go back to this. Let's start over.
No problem. Sounds good to me. I like a little laugh at the beginning. Let's get the party started.
Okay, here
I'll
we
mute
go.
because there's some background music or background noise here, so I'll mute myself.
Okay. Great. Oh, I've got to click the slide to make it play. Okay, so who the heck am I to be talking about healing facilitation? Well, my original career was in mechanical engineering, believe it or not. And I worked for a little over 10 years in the semiconductor manufacturing arena over in Silicon Valley. Then I wanted to be a mom, and it felt important for me to stay home with my kids. And during that time, I was lucky enough to be able to do that. And during that time, I got into personal development. And that all came about because I was someone who had done everything that I was supposed to do in terms of go to college, get a career, just kind of following the standard, what you're supposed to do. And I found myself actually feeling pretty miserable in my life and having a lot of issues that I didn't know how to overcome and a lot of emotions that I didn't know how to deal with. And I had my very first panic attack, which I didn't even know what that was when it was happening. But I ended up taking an ambulance ride to the hospital. Very unpleasant. They were interrogating me, trying to find out how often do you have panic attacks? Do you drink? Do you smoke? Do you do drugs? It was not a great experience. And then at the hospital, the doctor, spent like 5 minutes with me and then prescribed a Xanax. And I left the hospital, got the Xanax, went home, took the Xanax, which really overwhelmed me. I could barely get up the next day to take my kids to school. It just did not seem like that was a good solution. And right around the same time, I had gotten interested in personal development programs that I had heard of, and I ended up in an intuitive coaching program where they were teaching all of us how to deal with challenging emotions. And when I went into that thing, I didn't even think I had an intuition. I was a very analytical person, what some people would call a left brain person. And I just thought, oh, you just live your life from logic and you do the logical things and everything's going to work out great. Well, that's not what was happening in my life. So apparently it was time for me to learn about this other side of life, to learn that creativity and intuition are super important. So I got into life coaching and I got a certification for intuitive coaching. I was one of the mentor coaches on a weight release program that was held online. And then there's lots of tools out there, and I've become kind of a collector of the various tools that really help us with the mind-body issues that we have, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. But I learned EFT tapping for clearing subconscious blocks to success. And then I stumbled upon this place called Graceful Health, a Center for Extraordinary Living, and I found out about healing facilitation. And it was through my own experience there, working through some health issues, and then being invited to join that program and become a healing facilitator myself, that I really started to get this sense that the science is really coming into play with healing. It's like the meeting of science and spirituality, and it's becoming super important because the medical system is really letting us down in terms of chronic diseases. I mean, they're wizards, don't get me wrong. I don't have a thing against doctors, and if you're hurt in an accident or something like that, it's incredible what they can do. But in terms of chronic illness and chronic disease, there is some room for some different things to be happening. And so I've been practicing Elan healing for several years now, and we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. And so you might be thinking, well, what is healing facilitation? And for me to answer that, I need to talk a little bit about the difference between healing and curing, because they're not the same thing, even though I think we're kind of culturalized to think that they are the same thing, and we use those words interchangeably. So let's take a closer look. A cure is some type of therapy that makes your symptoms go away. And the interesting thing about a cure is that it can lead to a healing. So kind of extreme example would be somebody that has a heart attack, and they have to have this intense heart bypass surgery. And in the process of that surgery, they get their rib cage cracked open, so the doctors can get in there and make the repairs. And after that surgery, because their heart space was opened up, they actually are a more generous and compassionate person as a result of that. So that would be a healing that is resulting from a cure, which was the surgery. So it's very interesting. Now, healing is a process of becoming healthy. It's more of a journey that you're going on, recognizing that your body talks to you, that your symptoms have meaning, and your body has this innate intelligence to be able to heal itself. And you've seen that. Everybody has cut their hand and watched over time as that heals. The body knows how to do this. The problem is that our stress and our tension get in the way, and I'll talk about that in more detail. Healing facilitation, I believe, creates a space for healing. And when I'm facilitating, it's really a teaching of strategies, neurological strategies, so that your body is more efficient at being able to engage that innate intelligence of healing. So symptoms have meaning, and human touch is super important. That's one of the things that I love about healing facilitation. When I was coaching, it was usually over the phone, and that's great, and it totally has its place. But when I got into the healing facilitation, I just realized how important human touch is, and especially now when we have been so isolated because of this pandemic. Now, the other key thing is that humans really need progress in order to feel satisfied. So back when I was feeling miserable and like, what's going on? I did everything I was supposed to do. Why am I so miserable? Well, it turns out that we need progress in terms of personal development in order to feel satisfaction and feel fulfilled in our lives. So that's part of the healing journey in my view. My goals this evening are to get more clarity around this healing versus curing, and to have a better understanding of the unconscious tension that's held in the body that's getting in the way of natural healing. How we can reclaim our vital life energy. And I'll talk about this Elan approach to healing. Now, the word Elan, it's a French word for energy, enthusiasm, flair. And in the case of Elan healing, we use it as an acronym. It's extraordinary living through advanced neurology, because Elan is actually based on the neurology of the body and on science. So healing, I like to think of as the emerging center of healthcare, because our healthcare system is broken. To share a few examples, for the last 3 years, life expectancy has actually been dropping. The US ranks 64th in life expectancy, which was a surprise to me because I consider us one of the leading developed countries on this planet. So it was surprising to find out that we don't rank very well when it comes to health. And then there's this issue of prescription drugs. You know, we all want that magic pill, make that symptom go away, right? Well, unfortunately, taking the correct drug for the correct diagnosis kills hundreds of thousands of people per year. And I believe that's because we are all so different, that there's not just, you know, one pill fits all. And over-the-counter medications, if you don't take anything else away from this presentation tonight, I want you to have a better ability to question the safety of over-the-counter medications. We are led to believe that, oh, if it's over the counter, it's safe, right? It doesn't need to be a prescription format. Well, let's look at things like Advil and Motrin. These are non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. They're called NSAIDs. And what they actually do is they inhibit platelet aggregation, which causes bleeding. They block body chemicals that normally dilate the blood vessels leading to the kidneys. This causes damage to the kidneys. And the personal story that I have around this is that a person that I'm very close to in my family was diagnosed with a large egg-sized tumor on their kidney a few years back. And you know, there were some difficult decisions that had to be made about how to approach that. But in the process, they discovered that he had been taking Advil on pretty much a daily basis for like 10 years. And he is not a dumb guy. This is a PhD. He has a PhD in chemistry and physics, and he worked for a large government laboratory for 25 years. Not a dumb guy, but he was led to believe that this was a safe medication to just be taking on a daily basis, but it damaged his kidneys. So, reported in the England Journal of Medicine in 1999 that these anti-inflammatory drugs are causing people to bleed to death, thousands of people. So make sure you're using these things conservatively. All right, let's talk about your physiology, because there is this interesting concept that your physiology is a reflection of your life. So the graph that I have up here on the slide represents as you go through life, the ups and downs of life. So the green arrow would be, these are celebrations and wonderful things that happen in your life. And then the red arrow would be things that are not so good, traumatic things, big and small. The traumatic things end up loading into your body, especially when you're young and your brain doesn't really know how to process something difficult that's happened to you. Say you're learning to ride a bike and you want to impress your dad. Your dad's teaching you how to ride a bike, right? And you take a fall and it really hurts, like you hurt yourself, but you don't want to disappoint your dad, so you stuff it, right? Everybody's familiar with the idea of stuffing. And that's physically actually happening. That trauma is being stuffed somewhere in your body so that your brain doesn't have it rattling around in there and distracting you and overwhelming you. So what happens over time is that tension keeps loading in the body, and this is unconscious tension. This isn't like, oh, I can grip my fist like this and I can consciously just release it. These are unconscious tensions being held in the body. And what they do is they disrupt the optimal functioning of the nervous system. So if you see the picture, this is kind of an extreme picture, but I'm sure you've seen people that are kind of hunched over in this defensive posture. And if you notice, it's a protective posture. Like they're protecting their organs, they're protecting their heart. And this actually causes the sympathetic nervous system to fire continuously. And that's really the root cause of disease, because it's not allowing your body to engage that innate healing ability that it has, because your body needs to be in the healing, in the safe restorative mode, which we call the parasympathetics. So what happens is we end up in a vicious cycle where our brains, because we're prey animals, is actually hardwired to focus on the things that are going wrong, the things that could go wrong. Those make us fearful. We get more tension buildup, we get more stress physiology, more defensive, and by law of attraction, you get more of what you focus on. So this is a vicious cycle. We need tools to break this. So the stuffing it strategy that your body is doing is really the drain on your vitality. You know, if you look at a kid running around and flopping themselves around on the floor, I mean, do you ever wonder like, oh, when did I stop being able to do that? You know, like I have to be careful if I'm going to try and flop around on the floor. Well, what's happening is over time, our bodies are somaticizing these big and small traumas in order to protect us. And so it's a good short-term strategy because you don't want your traumas constantly overwhelming your thinking all of the time, but it's a terrible long-term strategy because you end up disconnecting with places in your body. And then you actually have the defensive posture, which will keep the stress response firing. You can think of it in terms of computers where these data files are stored for later processing. So good short-term strategy, bad in the long term. And your vitality is being used to hold on to that unconscious tension. Now the tension, what it's also doing is compromising the neurology in your spine. So if you've got more tension on one side than the other, then that's going to take the vertebrae and twist them. So you get a rotational twist on your spinal cord. And what is your spinal cord? It is the main communication channel between your brain and your body, for your body to tell your brain, hey, here's what's going on, here's what I need, and the brain to set up the hormones or whatever needs to happen to take care of some issue that's happening in the body. So over time, we get decreased communication. The defensive posture is stretching the spine, putting a stretch on it, and the uneven tensions are putting a twist on it. So people have asked the question, are spinal misalignments really related to dis-ease? And there's a very interesting study that I like to share called the Windor Study. It was done by Dr. Henry Windsor at the University of Pennsylvania. And so he was asking this question, are these misalignments really related to disease? So he was able to take 97 cadavers and a total of over 200 disease organs. And incredibly enough, the correlation is really high, 99.2% correlation between the minor curvatures of the spine and the diseases of the internal organs. So I'm a visual person. I like to understand this visually. So here's the picture. You can see where the nerves are coming out of the spine and which organs they go to. So you can see where in the spine they come out and which organs they go to. And here's where the correlations are super interesting. That in the cases of heart disease, the upper 5 thoracic vertebrae were misaligned. And you can see the connection of the heart to the, to the upper thoracic spine here. And with the stomach, misalignments in the mid-thoracic. So here's the stomach, and we're going into the mid-thoracic. It just lines right up. Liver disease, all 13 cases of liver disease, misalignments also in the mid-thoracic. And then the kidneys, misalignments in the lower thoracic. So where's my kidneys? Here we go, right here. And you follow it up, it goes right here to the lower thoracic. So pretty strong correlation. I think that makes a pretty good case for the root cause of disease being adverse mechanical cord tension, where the cord is being stretched or twisted. And the tensions held in the body are the cause of these misalignments, and they're putting these excess forces on the spinal cord. And if you think about if you have a defensive posture, like is shown in the picture, and the head is forward, that's putting incredible pressure on where the spinal cord goes up into the brain. So that's like pulling the brain stem through the little hole at the base of the skull. This is not good, right? So the primary goal of care in healing facilitation, to me, is to reduce the adverse mechanical cord tension. When you're looking at getting healing care, these are the things that I think are the most important to consider. You want to put care of your spine as a top priority, because it is the main communication channel for your nervous system, and that controls everything. You want something that's really engaging the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest, digest, and heal. You want a methodology that is teaching the nervous system strategies for dropping tension. You know, again, to go back to the computer example, we need upgrades. You know, we're born with the nervous system at a certain level, and then as we go through life, you know, life's getting super challenging. Look at the pandemic. People are scared. We need upgrades in our strategies in how our nervous system is dealing with these challenges that life presents. And here's a key thing. We want to focus on ease. We want to focus on what's working. And this is because of the law of attraction. What you focus on, you get more of. So it's kind of funny to me, now that I've learned all this, that we're really culturalized to focus on problems. You know, you get a symptom and then you go look for a practitioner that can like dig into that symptom and figure out how to make it go away. And I think that's why we have such an issue with chronic disease in our culture. What we really want to do is focus on strategies that are using what's working and are using that, we call it free energy, to clean up neurological pathways so that you're getting better mind-body communication, you're getting better engagement with the innate healing system that's on board. So good nutrition and exercise are important, but really spine health is primary. You can be doing all the good nutrition and massive amounts of exercise, but if your spine is in bad shape, you're still going to have issues with not being able to heal your body. So your incredible body. I think it's common knowledge that we have a survival response. You know, if you're actually in mortal danger, your body can do incredible things, you know, lifting cars or running really fast. You have repair of injuries. Even the reproductive system is a true miracle. And there are countless involuntary functions going on in your body. You know, you can go to sleep and your body is still breathing and your heart's still beating and you're digesting your food. Our bodies are a machine, but they also have this life force in them. So I think the medical system is really focused on the body as a machine and doesn't do a whole lot of honoring of that intelligent life force. They're getting better, but I really think that we need strategies that are honoring that intelligence within us. So it knows how to repair itself if we get the tension and the stress out of the way. Let's do a quick little mind-body experience. I want you to close your eyes and just breathe in your nose and out your mouth. And I don't know if that just happened to everybody, but for me, as soon as I started this exercise and just said that, I was able to take a really deep breath, almost like my body's saying, okay, good job. Yeah, this is what we want more of. Now, you're going to use your hands to bring your focus to different areas of your body. So gently cup your hands over your eyes. You're still breathing in your nose and out your mouth. And bring your focus to that area behind your eyes. And just take a moment to notice, what is it like in there? Does it feel good to bring my focus to this area? If not, you can put your hands by your side because we don't want to stay anywhere that doesn't feel good. Next, I want you to bring your hands to your upper chest. You're overlapping your palms. And the hands just help us, the sensation of touch helps us bring our focus to one particular area. Just noticing what it's like in there. And you might notice it's very different than what it felt like over your eyes. This was an aha moment for me to understand that our bodies have different states, can be in different states in different areas. So no matter what emotional state your mind is in, you can always find a place of ease somewhere within your body. Next place to check is at the base of your sternum. This is where your rib cage meets. And I don't know if you can see me very well. It's where your rib cage meets at the base of your sternum. Breathing in there. Now, typically this is not the best place for me, so I'm just going to move on to my belly button and see if there's any ease you can find in there. So this is the very beginning of some basic self-healing facilitation skills that I teach in my class each month. Just teaching you how you can work with yourself. And did you know that you just took care of your spine by taking a moment to put your hands on your body and to make a conscious effort to find an area that has ease, that feels good. All right, so the primary clinical goal of Elan care is to reduce the tension on the spinal cord. So when I'm working with someone, the first 2 months of care is what we call revitalization care. And we're looking for the parameters that tell us about the tension on the spinal cord. We're looking for a reduction in those. If they're high, now I want to make a point that we don't want all the tension to drop out of our bodies, because you need tension to hold up the skeleton, right? What we want is an optimum amount of tension. So we don't want the tension to be too high and we don't want it to be too low. So in Elan care, we're checking what those tension parameters are and looking to optimize them. And we're focusing on areas of the body that have ease and are already working well. And those help us bring the other areas that are a little more challenged back online. So we like to have some scientific research to know that we're doing a good job. And Elan Healing has been around for about 20 years. And they've been doing quality of life research. And it shows that in the first 2 months of care, on average, people are experiencing a more than 14% improvement in the comfort in their bodies. And I just think that's really significant, which is why I like to share it. They're also experiencing a more than 20% improvement on average of the mental and emotional states. When you clear the neurological pathways in your body, you are better able to manage stress and to manage the energy in motion. Emotion is energy in motion. There's just better ability to manage all that. Perceived stress levels drop by more than 20%. Enjoyment of life goes up by more than 10%. And on average, people report a quality of life that is increasing on average 18%. That is pretty profound and tells me that this methodology works. And if you come across one that works as well as this or better, I would love to know about it. All right, so the Elan Healing System has been shown to dial down the sympathetic nervous system. That's when you're in fight or flight, while dialing up the parasympathetic nervous system. That's when you are in rest, digest, heal. The other nice thing about the parasympathetics is that your cortex can come back online. When you're in fight or flight, the blood flow is diverting away from your cortex to your hindbrain. So you're really becoming more, you're going from what we call wizard to lizard, where you're just in total survival mode. So when you're in parasympathetics, the blood flow is going back to the cortex, better decision-making, better connection with your intuition. That's where the creativity is. That's what you want. You want to dial up those parasympathetics, increasing the cortex activity, down-regulating the hindbrain. Optimizing the neurological tone. So this is what I was talking about earlier, where we want optimum tension. We sometimes use the analogy that our bodies are like an instrument. So if the neurological tone is off, then the note you're playing is going to be off, and the things that you're attracting into your life are going to be kind of off. There's this interesting concept that the shape, tone, and tension of your physiology actually matches the shape, tone, and tension of your life. So that's a really interesting thing to ponder. What this healing system does, it also increases your coordination and balance. And that's because of a better connection to the part of your brain that works with coordination and balance, which has just left my mind. Doggone it. It'll come to me later. This work enhances your unconscious posture. So I talked about in my newsletter this month how if you were like me when you were growing up and had a mom that was constantly like, sit up straight, you know, so it's like, oh. So those moments when you're reminded that you're slouching, you can kind of force better posture. But what's more important is, what is the unconscious, like, where is your nervous system trained to hold your posture? So what I love about Elan Healing System is it's actually training your nervous system to hold an improved posture more of the time, so that you don't have to think about it. There are improvements in body language, and it makes your inner knowing, your inner clarity easier to access. Okay, so we made it through summarizing the main points. We talked about the difference between curing and healing. There is a big difference. You can have a curing that leads to a healing. I talked about the heart attack example. And then you can have healing that leads to a curing. It's very common in the Elan healing for symptoms to resolve themselves. So that would be a case of somebody's healing and then it's resulted in a cure of whatever symptom got them onto the healing journey. So it's curing is more of a, oh, we got to make this go away, versus symptoms have meaning. What do I need? What is my body trying to tell me? So defensive posture and stress physiology cause a chronic stress response, which compromises your body's ability to repair on an ongoing basis. It becomes chronic. So the goal of effective healing facilitation would be to see a reduction in the person's adverse mechanical cord tension. I love seeing my practice members enjoy more comfort in their bodies, improved mental states, and this higher quality of life that everybody would love to have. Okay, now it's time for Q&A. So I'm going to I need to be able to view the chat. So I'm going to stop the share. There we go. Okay, so now I can view the chat.
You know, a thought just came to my mind, Jenny. At the end there, you're talking about getting to the source, and in what I do, we're always constantly looking for root cause, and we're doing root cause analysis. You know, we have problems that we've got to try to fix, and we're always saying, well, what's the root cause? Well, it's interesting about what you're talking about is you're not necessarily trying to cure it, but you're establishing, saying, you know, this root cause, your spine, that's the root of it, right? And it's almost similar kind of spine as a root, right? And
yes,
and if you're fixing the root cause, you won't have the issues anymore. And you know, that's what we try to do in our business. Is it's all about prevention of an issue. And so we're fixing that root cause, or we're trying to understand what the root cause is, address that, so that way the problems go away and we don't have to keep doing this firefighting all the time. So very interesting kind of insight from me.
I love how you connected that up. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's really good.
And so, and one more question.
Sure.
When you're talking about, we did a little bit of breath work, but you're also talking about Elan healing and help teaching us how to improve that flow. Is that done? What specifically, and maybe you covered it and I missed it, but what specifically do you do in your entrainments to kind of help us or help us learn how to do that?
Yeah, we're using light touch. We're using contacts to the tissues surrounding the spine. And your skin has thousands and thousands of receptors, and there are different kinds. And we're specifically engaging the ones for light touch and for vibration. And those bring attention to those areas so that your brain kicks in and says, oh, do we have the right amount of tension at this spot? Oh, we don't. Oh, the tension's really high. We need some regulation of this. So it's bringing a specific focus to a specific area of the body. And we're working with areas that are already fairly easily accessible. And when we work with those, our focus on those actually creates this expansion so that the areas that are not so online or easy to connect into actually have the opportunity to find their relationship with ease. So you could talk about it simply as free energy and bound energy, where free energy is something's working really well, and bound energy is something it's all bound up in there. And
you're letting the free energy take over the bound energy, so that way it gets rid of it, right?
Yeah,
In a
it's
way,
like
right?
an
Overwhelms it.
invitation. Yeah, when you
Huh.
focus on the ease areas, right in the vicinity of the bound areas, there's an invitation there for that bound
Mm.
energy to find its relationship with freedom again. Yeah, it's really
Excellent.
interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay. Let me get back to the slide and we'll wrap this up. This takes a bunch of clicks to get through here. Okay, so ideas for your next step. I always like people to have an action step that they're going to take away from this. And if you don't know what to do with this information, then I have some ideas for you. I do a complimentary consultation. It can be done in person or over the phone. And so it's complimentary and you get clarity out of it. That's what I love the most, is just having a conversation with someone about what's going on and what have you tried, what isn't working, can bring some clarity for your next step. And if you schedule the consultation right away, you receive the physical assessment complimentary as well, which is a $75 value. So you can text me, 530-389-4141, easy to contact. And just for your information, the healing facilitation sessions take about 30 minutes and currently they are $39. Your next action, your next idea might be to take the self-healing facilitation skills class. So I have that. I do these talks on the first Thursday, and then third Thursday, I call it the EPC class, which stands for Evolutionary Personal Care. And that's where I teach how you can do this work with yourself.
Wow. Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. And that's it. Okay, I really appreciate you being here.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Great, great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much. Have a great night.
All right, you too.